Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I am going to cover 6 of the best uncommon champions in all of Raid Shadow Legends. Now, whether you're a free-to-play player or you're just looking to save some resources, these champions can be great investments to take up to 5-star or even 6-star. You're going to get a lot of value out of them. They're not going to cost you very much, and so you should definitely consider them depending on whether or not you need them in your roster. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. Now, before we get going, I do want to say that these are not the only 6 valuable uncommons in the game. And in fact, if your favorite uncommon is not on this list, go ahead and put that in the comments below. I like to learn about new champions. I haven't built out every uncommon in the game, although I've investigated them fairly thoroughly. But if you have a use case that I haven't thought of, I'd love to hear about it. And then maybe I can present that information in a future video. But for right now, these are the 6 that I'm familiar with that I know are very good champions and I can highly recommend. Let's start with one of my favorite uncommons, and that is in the Lizardman faction, and it is Soros. Now, Soros is a really fun champion. I enjoy this champion quite a bit, but he's also very effective and can be worth a 6-star. He has a simple kit, but the kit is very good for what it does. He has an AoE on his A1, and then he has a 2x AoE on his A2 that also has a chance of placing a heal reduction. If you look at his stats, you can see that his attack is very high, his defense and HP are low, so he is squishy, and his speed is also relatively low. However, this guy can be a great campaign farmer. He can also provide a lot of utility in the Lizardman faction crypt. You can put him in a stun set, you can put him in a lifesteal set, or you can just make him hit as hard as possible. He's actually one of those great fast campaign farmers that you can invest in that's relatively cheap. I think he gets down under 10 seconds, somewhere around 8 or 9 seconds on a campaign farm. So if you want a cheap campaign farmer or you need help in the Lizardman faction crypts, this guy can do a lot of work for you. He can also help you in other wave-based content, especially in a stun set. I always build at least 1 or 2 of these out to level 40 for my faction crypts on an early game account. So that's another cheap investment. And yeah, he's just really, really fun. I love his animations and I love how much damage he does. He hits really hard for an uncommon. Okay, our second uncommon is actually the newest one for me on this list. I have not run this champion up before my latest account, and that is Satyr. So I'd never really thought about this champion until I was doing a live stream just a few weeks ago, and one of my viewers commented that this is a very powerful uncommon. So I started investigating, and boy, he was right. This is a great champion. So for the A1, you just have a chance of placing a decreased speed. That's always a useful skill. And so, you know, having the decreased speed on the A1 is not bad. But then if you combine it with the A2, this is a 4-hitter that decreases the turn meter by 15% if this attack is critical. This can proc 4 turn meter decreases. So you can decrease the turn meter of the target by up to 60%. Now, again, this champion doesn't have great stats and has relatively low speed. You're going to need a 100% crit rate, and you're going to need a high accuracy in order to get this turn meter decrease. But if you can build that into this champion, even running at 40 or 50, you can use him as a great Fire Knight solution in the early game. That slow will help you with the Fire Knight if you can apply that slow. And this 4-hitter will help you break the shield, and then the turn meter will help you keep the turn meter low. So if you are struggling to get past, you know, Fire Knight 8 or 9, consider building one of these out to 5 stars, put them in your team, and maybe you can get up to that stage 13 where it's better to farm anyway, or keep moving up, maybe even to stage 16. I don't know if Satyr is worth a 6 stars. I've never actually built one out myself, but his kit feels really good. The only trick here is getting him fast enough and tanky enough to be worth it. So I would say definitely consider building 1, maybe even 2. You could have, 2 at 40 for your faction crypts. This champion's going to do great work against the bosses in faction crypts, but also against the waves, because remember, this A2 is random. So when there are multiple enemies, it may hit multiple enemies. When there's only 1 enemy, all 4 hits are going to land on that 1 enemy. So it's a really versatile champion in terms of turn meter decrease, and having 2 of them in your faction crypts early on could be very effective. You know, you're going to have Sun Wukong if you are currently watching this video when it drops. So between Sun Wukong and a couple of satyrs, you've got a good core of a Faction Crypts team. But don't forget Fire Knight, and maybe even, I haven't actually tried Satyr out, but maybe even running him in Ice Golem or Spider could be viable. If you've done that, let me know in the comments below, because I'm still learning about Satyr, but I am convinced he is a great champion. Okay, and now we get up into the upper echelons of the uncommons. There are 2 in the Barbarian faction. We are going to start with Shield Guard. Now, Shield Guard is probably highly regarded as maybe the second best uncommon in the game. I'm not sure if that's true, but he's definitely the second most taken to 6 stars, I would say. So he is worth a 6-star, and he is a great campaign farmer and great wave content damage dealer. He's defense-based. He's very tanky. He's got a nice HP pool, nice defense. Speed's a little low, but not too bad. His A2 is the big skill here. Attacks all enemies, fills this champion's turn meter by 20% on each critical hit. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense, which is just meaning his damage is based on defense. This can be on a 2-turn cooldown. And so if you are going into wave content, let's say you're doing campaign where there are 4 enemies, you're going to be getting 80% turn meter on each of these hits, and that's going to bring back this skill really quickly, right? It's already on a 2-turn cooldown. It is enough to potentially clear out a wave if you build them the right way. If you don't have enough damage, you can always put him in a lifesteal set, and he's just going to keep healing himself up with this A2. His A1 actually has a decent chance of landing a decreased speed as well. It is the lesser decreased speed, but it's a 50% chance, which is pretty solid. And so he's also useful against bosses for this decreased speed. Finally, he has the opportunity to remove a debuff from himself each turn, which means he's hard to stun, he's hard to slow, and he's going to be able to remove those debuffs and potentially keep going and keep hitting. Just like any champion with a good reliable AoE, you could also put Shield Guard in a stun set. That's not a typical build that I run, but if you're struggling in Doom Tower and you level Shield Guard up to 60, which is, I've actually done this on my free-to-play, my most recent free-to-play account. I've leveled him up to 60, and I am thinking about putting him in a stun set, because he's going to, as long as he has a 100% crit rate, he's going to come back around to those stuns really quickly. You can go down the defensive tree of masteries, get that stun set that extra 5%, and he might do a lot of crowd control work for me. I'm hoping anyway. We'll see. I'll let you know how that turns out. Now, the second uncommon in the Barbarians faction is Zephyr Sniper. I actually think she's a bit underrated. I think this is a very good champion. She is most commonly used as a Spiderling tank against Magic Affinity Spider bosses. So that's stage 20. Stage 25, I don't know how many people use her in stage 25, because that'd probably be too slow. But you can certainly use her in stage 10 and any stage between 10 and 20 that is Magic Affinity. You could probably also use her in any neutral affinity spider boss. So basically what happens is you get some counterattacks on her. She has an AoE on her A1, and then you put her either in lifesteal. Typically, you would put her in lifesteal. So you get maybe some retaliation, you get some revenge accessories. You go down the defensive mastery tree, get her the counterattacks from the mastery tree. So she's going to be counterattacking very frequently. You can build her with some high resist so she doesn't take as many poisons. And then every time she gets attacked by a Spiderling, she has a chance of attacking everybody. Not only is that going to do damage, but it's going to keep healing her up. So having a reliable Spiderling tank is one of the key components of a good Spider's Den team composition. And Zephyr Sniper can do that really well. You can even probably get away with her at level 50 for stage 10 of the Spider's Den. So if you need to farm stage 10, which is the best stage to farm early game, consider running up Zephyr Sniper to at least 5 stars, getting maybe a retaliation set and a lifesteal set on her, and maybe some revenge accessories if you have the revenge accessories in the Barbarian faction, and see if she can't be a great Spiderling tank for you. She does have a little bit of self-sustain and sustain for your team here with continuous heals. You can turn this skill off if you don't find it useful, or you can try to run it and see if it provides you with extra survivability. When you look at her stats, you'll notice she has a really nice defense pool and a nice speed for an uncommon. So at 1244 and 100 speed, these are really solid stats. Her HP pool is a little bit low, but she doesn't need any attack, so that doesn't matter. And she does start with 30 resist, which is really nice. So this gives you an opportunity to get that resist a little bit higher. and maybe resist those spiderling poisons. I also think that she is a very good champion for faction crypts and any wave-based content. That A1 AoE can be used in conjunction with the stun set, just like we've said on other champions. But because this is an A1, she can literally fire this off every time if you want her to. And so since you're already going down the defensive tree, if you take her to 6 stars, you can get that extra 5% for the stun sets. And this could be a good champion at 6 stars. I don't know that I would run her to 6 stars, but you could certainly consider it, especially if you don't have any other good A1 AoE champions. She's cheap to invest in. She only takes 5 books, so you only need 6 copies of this champion to book her out. A very easy champion to build, a very easy champion to run, a very easy champion to book out. So in terms of investments, minimal investment, pretty good return. Okay, so now we go to the Sacred Order. This is the last faction, so only 4 factions today. But let's start with Outlaw Monk. Now, Outlaw Monk is not a great champion. Let me get that out of the way right away. I don't think I would take Outlaw Monk to 6 stars, but he is a specialist that does something better than pretty much every other uncommon in the game, and that is poison. So he has an A2 here that places 2 poison debuffs on the target for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown once he's booked out. This is not a hit. It simply places the poisons. That means it is affinity friendly. You don't have to worry about weak hits. This makes him a great early game poisoner for the clan boss. So if you are lacking a poisoner, if you didn't take Kale or you're just trying to get more damage onto the clan boss and you are in the early game, consider bringing Outlaw Monk to at least 4 stars or 5 stars and make sure you book him out because there are 2 advantages to booking him out. One is obviously you reduce the cooldown on this poison. The second thing here is you get a greater debuff chance here. So he has a chance of getting an extra turn. If you book him out, that goes up to 25% chance for an extra turn. And what that means basically is this 3-turn cooldown can be dropped to a 2-turn cooldown, thereby giving you an opportunity to keep these poisons up 100% of the time. Now, the downside of Outlaw Monk is he is extremely squishy, very low defense, very low HP. His speed is totally reasonable for a clan boss champion, so that shouldn't be a problem. And you'll get a decent amount of damage out of his skills as well. But I wouldn't worry about crit rate or crit damage on this champion. Just make sure he has accuracy, speed, and then as much defense as you can possibly pile onto him to keep him alive. There are a ton of uncommon poisoners in the game. You can pretty much use any of them in Clan Boss. Some of them will be a little bit more survivable, but this is the best one by far because he's the only one who gives 2 5% poison debuffs instead of the smaller 2.5% debuffs. And he's the only one that's 100% affinity friendly. Now, finally, we come to the big boy. He's right here, and that is Armiger. This is the one uncommon I think everybody would agree is worth a 6 star. When you build him on your account is entirely up to you, but he can play all the way through to end game. And I think the only other champion that is likely to do that for you is maybe Shield Guard, and that's a maybe. But Armiger is a very valuable champion. I usually don't rush into an Armiger early in the game, but you could potentially make him your 3rd or 4th 6 star, depending on the champions that you pull. I usually level him up somewhere between like 8 and 12 in terms of my 6 stars. So let's go over his kit. You'll see why he's valuable. The first thing, the best thing about him is his A1. This decreases the turn meter by 30% if this attack is critical. So you do need a 100% crit rate on him to make him effective. But this is a really cheap, really effective turn meter control champion. So 30% is nice. That's a nice big chunky turn meter decrease. And it's also going to be 100% as long as he doesn't weak hit. Remember, if he is affinity, he's spirit affinity, so he will weak hit against magic targets. However, you also do have to have the accuracy, so remember that any turn meter champ is going to need the accuracy as well. Since he's a defensive-based champion, he's fairly survivable. His defense is a little bit low for a defensive-based champion. Both Shield Guard and Zephyr Sniper have significantly higher defense scores here, but I do think that he's relatively survivable. You can build him nice and tanky. And remember, there are only really three stats, I guess, you need on this champion. One is the 100% crit rate. 2 is accuracy to land that turn meter decrease. And then 3 is speed, so you can get back around to that A1 as fast as possible. You could consider putting him in a relentless set to get more A1s out there. That is also a good option. His A2 also plays. This attacks one enemy, and enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So this is a block revive on a 2-turn cooldown. This is very good in Ice Golem. You can potentially block revive the minions in Ice Golem and they won't come back. It is also an enemy max HP hit, so it hits decently hard, but it is difficult to build this guy with a lot of damage because his stats just aren't quite there. Still, you can get a moderately strong hit out of this skill if you build him in that direction. For turn meter control, you can't really get a more consistent turn meter control champion in the game for anywhere near the minimal resources you have to invest in Armiger to make him effective. Probably the other two champions that you could think about who are in his class are Vizix, who you get at 270 days as a login reward, and then Allure, who is an epic who has a great turn meter control on her A1. So those are the other two champions who are like the best of the best in terms of turn meter control. But Armiger as an uncommon is available to everybody really early in the game, and he's much cheaper to build than those other champions. Now, a quick note about all of these uncommons and any other uncommons that you're thinking about using. Some of them are available from the campaign, so you can go ahead and try to farm them up in the campaign if you're looking for extra copies. You can also get some of them in the market. So if you go into the market, uncommon champions pop up here all the time. So every hour you can check back and look for copies of Zephyr Sniper or Shield Guard or whichever one you're choosing to build out. Now, those copies are important because when you book an uncommon champion and you upgrade their skills, you do not want to use any of your books. You don't want to even use rare tomes. You can use rare tomes in order to book out an uncommon, but there's no need to. You want to book out your uncommon champions with copies of themselves. And that's why you want to look in the market and you want to potentially farm campaign for those additional copies. Okay, that is it. Those are the 6 most effective uncommon champions in the game as far as I know. Like I said before, if you have a favorite uncommon that I didn't mention in today's video, go ahead and put that in the comments below and I'll check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications when I upload new videos. I've been Colred. I will see you in another video very soon.